Hello everyone, and welcome to Love Alchemy, the place where divine love transformation happens. That divine love transformation starts by going within. And today we are talking about self-love. What is self-love? And why is it so important? Why do we need it? This is a topic that can be quite confusing. There's a lot of guilt, shame, uncertainty, so many things surrounding self-love. And I know for me, this whole self-love topic was kind of a bone of contention. So when I was growing up, and because you didn't want to be viewed as conceited or self-absorbed, if you loved yourself, so you didn't make it a practice to love yourself because you didn't want it reflected negatively on you. And while this whole self-love thing is getting better and more acceptable, and we do see a lot of people talking about it, writing books on it, it was a very foreign concept quite a while ago. And, like I said, when I was growing up, to say that you loved yourself just kind of put you in a bad light of, what's wrong with you? Why are you acting conceited? Oh, you love yourself, so you must be conceited. And this is such backwards thinking, because now we know that the love of self is extremely important. We can love other people, and that's not a problem. And we've been taught that, to love other people, to give our love to others. But what about giving love to ourselves? So really, we need to know what self-love is, because a lot of times when we hear self-love, when we hear that concept or someone say you must love yourself, many things come to mind when we think about self-love. We think about self-care, meaning that having a bubble bath, getting a massage, treating yourself to a night out, to dinner, to a movie, a pedicure or manicure. Those types of things we equate to self-love, when actually those are just aspects of self-love. They really aren't what self-love is. So self-love is actually so much deeper than the bubble bath, than the massage. Self-love, or love in general, is an energy. It is a state of being. So self-love means embodying this love, being love, understanding that at the very core of who we are, that we are all love. So this definitely puts things into a different perspective. Because love is a state of being, it is who we are. It doesn't come from outside of ourselves, but comes from within each and every one of us. When we meet someone, when we fall in love, we believe that that love that we feel comes from the other person. Because maybe we feel this emanation of love. We feel the energy of love. But what is really happening is the love that we feel comes from us, from inside of us. And then it seems to be amplified when we meet someone else. It's like the other person mirrors it back to us, mirrors that love back to us, mirrors what is inside of us already, so that we can see who it is that we truly are. And the same goes for the other person that we love, that we are mirroring back to them this love for them, but we're just mirroring back to them that they are already love. So we can find this love already inside of us. We do not need an outside influence to trigger that love, to bring us that love, but we need to discover it. We need to embrace it, and we need to go within to realize that it is there already. So in the book Be Love Now by Ram Dass, and I'll refer to this a few times today. So he said, Jesus used the metaphor of a fisherman. When you first feel that depth of joy, you are caught in the net of pure love by the divine fisherman. You're hooked on that love. So essentially what he's saying is that when we get into a relationship and there's all those loving feelings that are coming up for us, we think it's the other person. In this case, we think it's the fisherman, but it's not the other person that activates it. It's you activating your true self. You are revealing the depth of your own heart. And because we've been hurt so many times and brokenhearted, and over time we can create this wall around our hearts, protecting ourselves from any type of vulnerability, closing ourselves off and not wanting to trust and love again because we believe that love hurts us. And maybe we think of that song, Love Hurts. And actually, it's not the love that hurts, but it's our egos that actually do the hurting, because we don't want to be tricked again. We want to make sure that we are protecting ourselves at all costs. And so we will do anything to protect ourselves from getting hurt or being hurt first. So we'll hurt another before they will hurt us. And maybe you've heard that saying, hurt people hurt people. So there's a lot going on inside of us. Things that have triggered us, that have made us put up this barrier. We've created this barrier to love because we believe that that is the only way we can protect ourselves. That is the only way that we can avoid that hurt. However, it isn't the true love that hurts. When you are deeply in love, when you understand that you are love at the very core, that is true love. And you will begin to trust yourself a whole lot more. So Ram Dass makes this other point in his book Be Love Now. He says it's easy to confuse the emotional heart with the spiritual heart. So I'm going to explain. The emotional heart is about romance, dramatic feelings of attraction. It includes hate, jealousy, tenderness, all of those things. So this emotional heart is the one that creates the attachments. And the attachments have to do with ego. And if we go back to Buddha and what Buddha said about attachments. Attachments, they can be cravings or aversions, and they can create misery and suffering in our lives. So when we are attached to something, regardless if it's something that it gives us pleasure or if it's something that gives us pain, something that we dislike and something that we like, if we create an attachment around it, then that is where the suffering comes from in our lives. So you think about something that you love, maybe it's chocolate or coffee or cigarette smoking, anything like that, where you have that desire or that craving for something, then you can create an attachment to it because you're allowing it to control you. And that is where the suffering comes from. That is where the heartache comes from, or the attachment comes from. That's all just ego, because the ego is demanding. The ego wants to be fulfilled, wants that instant gratification and wants it now. And it will do anything to manipulate you into believing that you need it right now. And just as an aside, if you really went into your body, really went into deeply into your heart center, listened intuitively to what your body was saying, I bet you your body would not want those things that you've created an attachment to. It would ask you to step back, just take a breather. And I've done this myself for my own desires and habits, that I want something. I want that chai latte every morning. And when I allow ego to take over, then I will go and get that chai latte. But if I really listen to my body and what it's saying, and deep down it's actually saying, no, we don't want this. Don't go get this chai latte because it's not going to make you feel good. So think of it from that perspective of, am I depending on this where it's created an attachment for me, and that attachment has created suffering for me? So now let's relate this all to self-love, to the emotional heart. If you dislike yourself, or you don't feel worthy of love, or you feel unlovable, this is the ego. This is the emotional heart. Because the emotional heart is based on attachment, on ego. The opposite is true. So if you are self-absorbed or mainly concerned with your own feelings or for yourself, this is the emotional heart. The emotional heart operates from ego. So while we may all engage in some sort of self-deprecating behavior every once in a while, on some level, we all do it. The whole point of this is, do you do it on a consistent basis? Do you have that self-talk within you, that negative self-talk, or that self-talk that doesn't really serve you? Is it on a consistent basis? So if it is, then that means that you are engaging with the ego, the emotional heart. You are engaging on this level that is not at a deeper level, not at a more divine being level. It's very surface. So when we create a habit of being meaning when we create patterns in our lives, and if those patterns only serve to hold us in a space of like staying stagnant and kind of in that comfortable space. And don't get me wrong, there is nothing wrong with being comfortable, but if it's comfort that is a disservice to you, where you are limiting yourself, then that's where the problem begins. This, when you're staying stagnant and comfortable and not diving deep into your true being, but believing those negative thoughts and emotions about yourself, then this creates a habit in your life that you will 100% believe in about yourself. Because if you say something over and over and over again, you will create that habit. Your body will send off a chemical reaction where you will begin to believe it 100%. There are studies on this. They have proven this, that over time, the same type of self-talk, the same type of dialogue that you begin to believe, that you bring into your own being, will create a habit for you, a habit of being, a pattern for you. So if you do this over time, decades even, and especially when we are younger, from birth until about 7 years old, when we are sponges and we are just absorbing everything around us and not being able to filter that out because we haven't developed that filtering system to know what fits for us and what doesn't fit for us, then we are creating these habits, these patterns, these belief systems. We are taking on other people's belief systems, other people's ideas and thoughts and emotions, and we are basically mimicking that when we are younger. And then the older we get, we've created this pattern, and we sometimes don't even know where it comes from until we do a lot of deeper work to really understand it, to really release those patterns. So you'd be able to understand then that over time, if you've created this pattern or this habit, that to reprogram it later on in life can be a bit daunting. It can be difficult because now you've got to do something different, and you have to be aware. You have to be mindful about what you're doing so that you can stop that old pattern, that old habit, to create a new one. And then eventually your brain rewires and reprograms to create that new habit, because our brains are neuroplastic. You can teach an old dog new tricks over time. It's just the older we get, and those patterns, those old patterns and beliefs, they just get embedded within us. So it takes a little bit longer to do something different, to create a new habit, but it can be done. So this now leads us to the spiritual heart. So according to Ram Dass, the spiritual heart is where you meet the self. The heart, mind, the divine, the true self. The heart, the mind, the divine is the spiritual heart, not the ego. And while the ego does have a place in our physical world, that is not really who we are. So Ram Dass said, I couldn't get to my spiritual heart through my rational mind. My mind had to stop for my heart to open. And Patanjali said in the Yoga Sutras, the union arises when the waves of thoughts in consciousness cease. So it's essentially saying that this emotional heart brings up that mind chatter. It brings up all that surface level stuff. And the spiritual heart is so much deeper than this. Now let's bring this back around to self-love, where we started. Self-love is connecting with your true loving self, your higher self. Knowing that you are love at the very heart of it all. That you are deserving of love. You are deserving of loving yourself. That you are love. And when I speak of self-love, I'm not talking about the occasional bubble bath, like I said before. I'm not talking about looking in the mirror and looking into your eyes and telling yourself to love yourself. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm also not talking about just loving all the bumps and lumps on your body or the imperfections. While those things are all good, and we can do that, we can look in the mirror, we can look ourselves in the eyes and tell us to love ourselves, that we should love our bodies, all of that. Yes, please do that. But this is not what I'm talking about today, because this type of love, this type of self-love, is so much deeper than that. This is about aligning with who you truly are as a divine being, as divine love, embodying that divine love, knowing that you are divine love. So this is about going deep within. It's about really understanding who you truly are. And I don't mean, when I say who you truly are, I don't mean, oh, you're a mother, a father, a sister, a brother, whatever your career is. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about at a very deep level. Really understanding that you are more than this physical body, than these hands and these feet and these legs. So much more than this. So much deeper. So when you begin to make the effort, to do the work, to begin to break these chains that hold you back, and the chains that limit you, the things that you have created, that those limitations that you've created for yourself, when you begin to cut those cords to those old belief systems, those old patterns, when you begin to deprogram the old thoughts, the old emotions that are not providing you with any positive high vibe, and by reprogramming to a higher vibe, to a higher vibration of thoughts and emotions, that is when the spiritual heart reveals to you what love is. So you have to go beyond that. That's when true self-love shows itself. And you really begin to understand it at a deeper level. You begin to understand exactly what I'm saying here when you go within. And this is about self-mastery as well, because you're beginning to master those thoughts and emotions, master that old programming, those old patterns, all of that stuff. You are beginning to be the master of, because we actually, as humans, have gotten kind of lazy in our thought processes, in our emotions, just kind of going through whatever's familiar, and when we feel something or sense something or think something, we just think it's normal because it's created such a habit in our lives that we just think, oh, whatever. And sometimes we don't even know it's there anymore because it has become such a habit in our lives. But when you step back and you really reflect, you go within and you begin to observe what you've been doing and saying and thinking and the emotions, and you begin to realize that this isn't where I want to be. This is not who I want to be. This is not how I want to feel or the way I want to think, because it hasn't created a whole lot of amazing things in my life. We tend to hang on to the familiar because we know what we're going to get. We know what to expect. So we hang on to it. But when you begin to master those emotions and thoughts and begin to embody who you truly are, that you are love, you will basically and naturally show yourself self-love, because it is now a habit. And you will show this self-love to the outside world. And you will no longer need to block off time for self-care, because it will naturally come. Because you will know, and you will just naturally take that time for yourself. Do what feels right for you. You will naturally have boundaries, because they will just be a given, because you have created that love for yourself. And this self-love will become a huge part of your being, because you now will understand what it truly means. So friends, this is self-love, and it is so incredibly important, especially in today's world. We see a lot of people hurting. We see a lot of people struggling. I see relationships that where the two people involved are not getting along, or something happens, or there's no respect there, or love, because they each haven't learned to love themselves fully. And so they're looking outside of themselves. They're looking at their partner to love them, to step up. But if the other person doesn't know what love is, or doesn't know how to love themselves properly and fully and do that healing work and let go of those old patterns, then nothing will change, because they won't see a problem, because they've created a habit and they are comfortable in their limitations. But when we begin to see that love within ourselves and nurture that and nourish that and continue on that path to self-realization of who we truly are as these divine beings, getting into the heart, living a heart-centered life, then it becomes easier. Then relationships become different. They become easier. It isn't to say that there isn't some sort of conflict or contrast. We're still human and we still have these egos, but you become more caring about how you are feeling, those emotions, those thoughts. You're becoming more aware of what is happening within you. So if you want to learn more about self-love, please go to my website at Lovealchemywellness.ca. I have a pre-recorded online self-love course, and I also have a pre-recorded online meditation course. I also do self-love coaching, distance energy healing to help you on your journey. But before we go, we're going to tap into our hearts. So get into a comfortable position where you won't be disturbed for a few minutes. This is about nurturing yourself, nourishing yourself. You're on this path to really understanding who you are. And I love you for that, because your energy, when we rise up into our own love, that energy is going to help the rest of the world. So get into a comfortable position and just calm your body, calm your mind, just relax, maybe stretch a little bit, stretch out any tension. And when you are ready, close your eyes. And place both hands on your heart. Breathe deeply. A nice long inhale. And then exhale. And just let it all out. Let it all go. And do that again. A nice deep inhale. And exhale. And just let it all out. Keep your hands on your heart as you allow your breathing to flow. Inhale, exhale, nice and slow. Just allow your body to relax. Just breathe. Breath is your life force energy, and it nurtures you and nourishes you. So make sure that you are breathing deeply, nourishing every part of your body. Now, with your hands on your heart, draw your awareness into the center of your heart, the spiritual heart. And just continue to breathe into your heart, into that spiritual heart. And make a dedication to yourself from this moment forward. You will continue to tap into your spiritual heart, loving yourself no matter what. On those days when things seem a little bit more difficult and challenging, give yourself a little more love, a little more appreciation. Just nourish yourself a little bit more, nurture yourself. At any time, you can place your hand on your heart and breathe into that spiritual heart. Center yourself and breathe into that love. Just allowing it to expand throughout your body and all around you. It's always your choice. It's always your choice to tap into love, true love for yourself. You are worthy, and you are loving, and you are lovable. Begin to really understand that about yourself. Begin to create a new dialogue, a new foundation of self-love. Begin to tap into that every single day to create a new habit of love. You are enough, and you are beautiful, and I love you. Namaste.